Right then, chaps. Today we have a small Sebenza with black micarta inlays from Reeve Cutlery. This thing has a 3-inch cutting edge of S30V hollow ground blade, stone washed, with titanium handle slabs, half an inch thick overall, including the micarta inlays, and just shy of 4 inches in the handle length, weighing in at 2.8 ounces, which is insanely light. However, despite that, it's still got a very substantial feel in the hand due to where the handle's been designed. Now, one of these will set you back brand new around $400. Which is silly money, and that's why I buy them second hand. And I can probably sell this one on for a profit for the price I paid, which is what I try and look for in a knife I just want to get my hands on. Now, the beauty in a knife like this is in the details, and in the tolerances, and in the just beautifully where it's been finished. So for those of you who aren't into knives, this will be an incredibly boring video, and you're probably thinking, why the hell would anyone spend $400 on this when you could get yourself a Glock for that amount, or a Rock Island Army 1911 or something of the kind. A knife person may understand why, and I'll try and explain their perspective for you in this little video, and also why I'm selling this knife, because it hasn't lived up quite to what I wanted. Just a quick demonstration that will speak volumes. You can see in there's a slight gap between the blade and the handle. A single sheet of A4, you can see that. Single-sided. Fit down in there nice and easy. You fold the same piece of A4 paper, and the resistance in trying to get it in between that gap, you can see this, is mad. You can get it in if you really press down hard, but it's not, you can see there, it's not going in. That's the kind of tolerances this knife is based on. And I can imagine, just as a purely hypothetical situation, if a bit of grit gets down in there, could possibly cause the blade to jam up against the handle. I mean, I haven't heard of that, I haven't researched it either, but I haven't heard of it. I mean, it hasn't happened to me. But I can imagine it being a bit like a 1911. If it gets a bit dirty, because it's got such high tolerances, it may fail. But that's not a guarantee, that's just an idea. But I love the tolerances. I mean, I'm no war-going man, and I just love the detail in this knife. Little things add up to make it worth, to some people, the cost. Double beveled titanium outer layer, you can see that there. Is it going to focus? Yes, it is. You can see that double beveled corners on the outside, single beveled on the inside, so your hand never comes into contact with a sharp edge. There's a slight bow to the handle, which means it just fits very nicely in the hand and gives it a lovely smooth feel. Lovely detail. On the stonewash blade, as I mentioned, around the pivot area it's been mirror polished, which means that you find this out if you take the knife apart, and ever so slightly will reduce the friction, just to give it that buttery smooth Sebenza feeling. The lock bar on the tip has been heat treated, so it will reduce friction, and you can just tell it by taking it apart and touching it. It's incredibly smooth, and you can see the heat treat, and it will also increase the longevity of the knife, which is a beautiful touch. Also, the part that causes the locking bar to bend here on this small Sebenza is actually thicker than it was on the SNG I previously reviewed, which is very impressive coming from a gentleman's folder, as opposed to a supposedly kind of army or soldier suited SNG. Also, the screw heads have been beveled on the heads and also on the handle. So on the inside, the hole they drop into, they just drop in. No, not possible to over tighten them. They just perfect tolerances on it. They just nestle in, no need to over tighten. So you can see that I removed the pocket clip, and it comes with a pocket clip hole cover, which is beveled, so it never moves around. And also the lanyard hole has a plug, which they provide, just to make it look like a more complete knife, even though you've taken out the lanyard. Fantastic detail. That's the kind of thing that you're looking for in a knife for this price. However, I do have some niggles. The lock bar over time has become quite gritty. This is a 7-year-old knife, but you'd hope from something that costs that much to last perhaps a bit longer. It's the most solid lock I've ever felt in any folding knife I have ever handled. Okay, far more solid than the SNG, which is impressive in itself, but it's become gritty, and I don't like that. And the graphite usual trick isn't solving that. The thumb studs, very uncomfortable. They begin to hurt after time when you're wet. When things are wet, if you're using it in the kitchen, for example, thumb just slides off, which isn't really ideal. Also, the pivot becomes loose, as it has done today. I took it apart earlier today to clean it, tightened it down, and it's already wobbling around inside there. You won't be able to see that. It's not a functional problem, but I can imagine it perhaps working its way loose eventually. And the nice touch on it is that there's a rounded off blade spine. However, that feels very comfortable, but it means that when you're trying to get some controlled cutting, your thumb doesn't have the usual stable platform. That is why I'm selling it. I can't justify the cost, but as I've hopefully explained, the engineering and the details in this, just fantastic. Any further questions, just shoot them down there and I'll get back to you. Cheers, chaps.